Without Alex Cleland, suspended after his sending off in the weekend defeat of Hibernian, and George Alberts, who scored the late winner despite getting an ankle injury earlier in the game. There's no Ian Ferguson, no Jury in the starting 11, but there are places for Craig Moore, Jonas Stern, Paul Gascoigne and Sebastian Rosenthal after his cruciate ligament injury.
Well, this is a major attacking formation really by Rangers. They're playing with the three out front guys. Lauda obviously making chances for Negri and Rosenthal. And I think Jonas Stern, he'll have a major holding role in midfield, allowing Ferguson and Gascoigne to support the front two. And, the experience of Goff at the back and Gorham, although he's been a mainstay at the back really for Rangers, he's been superb. Quite honestly, I don't really think he's going to have a great deal to do in goals tonight, Andy Gorham.
Rangers fans having a lot more worrying to do than normal. They would expect their team to have a little bit of clear blue water between them and the rest by this stage of the season, but it hasn't happened in this campaign, and it's their away form this season that might give them a little bit of cause to be unsettled coming here tonight, because all of the 3 defeats that they have suffered in the league have been away from Ibrox, but they do have 2 victories over Kilmarnock under their belts already this season. One of them here at Rugby Park. In fact, Rangers' last away defeat against Kilmarnock was back in May 1994, and at the time that was their 3rd away defeat on the trot. Had they not won at Hibs at the weekend, we'd have been looking at a possible 4th consecutive away defeat for Rangers, but that late goal has just settled the nerves, and I think the reaction of the players at the end of the game told a lot of the story. They were hugely relieved to pick up maximum points from that match, Alan.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and they were very fortunate. As I said earlier on there, if it hadn't been for Andy Gorham being superb in goal, it could have been a major difference, but nevertheless, he's not playing tonight, having said that. The man that scored the winner for them on Saturday, George Alberts. But the good thing for Rangers is, if anything, then they have the likes of Gascoigne back. Big plus that they've Rosenthal back. I think they're, with signing someone for £4 million or whatever, and they can't get him to deliver because he was injured. I think there's a bit of pressure on him to start, putting the goods on right away for Rangers, and they really need it, because Negri's been carrying the team with the goals he's been scoring himself. But then he's back in. You're right, the away form hasn't been good, but good place to start here. It's not an easy come to play. Superb stadium here, and as I said, Kilmarnock's home form has been well documented. They've done really well at home, but it's all about this mob tonight. If they want to stay top of the league, they've got to win tonight.
Well, out come these Rangers players who are bearing the hopes of supporters looking for that 10th league success in a row, and to give Walter Smith a rousing send-off. Tonight is his 50th birthday, and these are the players who threaten to upset the party. Kilmarnock's players, as Alan emphasised, have had a great home run. They've got some tremendous backing here at Rugby Park, and there'll be 1 or 2 of them determined to do a favour to Celtic and Hearts in the chasing pack. What a big night it is for Sebastian Rosenthal. A goal on his debut in that cup tie against St Johnstone, followed by the serious ligament injury that's kept him out until recently. His substitute appearance at the weekend after his comeback for the B team for Chile in the international against England at the Hawthorns, but tonight hoping to make a big impact after his big money signing. And on the other side, a great favourite of the home supporters, Paul Wright, a consistent goal scorer, 12 to his credit already this season, and at 30 years of age just signed up on a new long-term deal, as Kilmarnock have been attempting to do with 1 or 2 of the favoured players in their ranks. Paul Gascoigne hasn't been a regular starter for Rangers, but if he's got his good head on, there's no telling what might happen, is there?
Well, he's the man that makes them tick, isn't he? And I think they honestly have missed him in midfield. Certainly won't hurt them tonight, having Stuart McCall out. Stuart's actually come on Saturday, injured the top of his leg, and he's been out. It's only the first injury he's picked up after making his comeback after being out for a long time. But the bottom line, I think if Gascoigne's on song, and I think he'll be looking to get on the ball as often as he can, then you can imagine he can do the business. But I will emphasise that Kilmarnock have done well in games against Rangers and frustrated them for long periods of the game. And as we know in football, the longer it goes, the more difficult it can become. The pressure is on Rangers to get result tonight. Simple as that.
The worry for a lot of Rangers fans must be if 1 or 2 within their ranks are getting a bit demob happy. Not only Walter Smith's resignation at the end of the season well known, but Brian Laudrup also having signed that pre-contract agreement with Chelsea, which will see him on his way to Stamford Bridge in the summer at the latest. Tonight's match referee is Bobby Orr. It'll be the visitors to get the game underway. Marco Negri, what a remarkable goal-scoring record he's got this season. Far and away the leading scorer in Scotland with 35. And he and Paul Gascoigne to get the match underway. Three teams then locked together at the top of the table on 52 points. Can Rangers give themselves a little bit of breathing space before those home games tomorrow? For Celtic against Dunfermline and for Hearts against Aberdeen. Rangers do, of course, have that game against Hearts to look forward to at the weekend. They've got a throw in, and Craig Moore is the man to take it. Here's Laudrup involved in the action early on. Challenged by Holt, and Paul Wright far and away offside.
He likes to try and do that, Paul Wright, Rob. He tries to cheat a little bit to get on the other side of the defenders. You can see he's a little bit unlucky. You can see he's away already. I'll tell you, Bjorklund was sleeping there. If that had been a bit closer and Paul Wright was through, and it would have been a goal, I would imagine.
Kilmarnock haven't had too much success against Rangers of late, but the last time that they did beat them, Paul Wright was on the score sheet. That was at Ibrox, and Paul Smith, Walter Smith, the Rangers manager, hoping that nothing like that happens today to spoil his birthday, 50 today. McGowan with a free kick. And here's Gascoigne. Richard Goff, given away by him to Holt. An early strike. Andy Gorham tested early on.
A good strike. He takes a bad ball, really given away by Richard Goff there, quite uncharacteristically. Drops beautiful. Great strike there, but Andy Gorham in the right place. He do well to beat from under him. You can see here, it's a good ball through. Good strike by McIntyre.
So McIntyre has had his problems with injury of late and has just forced his way back into the reckoning, which means now a place on the bench for Mark Roberts. Here's Negri. Unlucky break for him. Came up and hit him in the face, and as we've heard, he's a bit sensitive with facial injuries at the moment after the blow he took with a squash ball that kept him out for a while. But he's got the ball on here, and it's Brian Laudrup tearing through! But unable to finish.
You've got to say, for Brian Laudrup in that position, it's a bad miss, Rob. I think Negri here's maybe trying to hold it up. Montgomery bundles into him. Good play by the referee, you've got to say. He's played advantage, and Brian really should be hitting the target from there. And, you know, a man of his class, really, that's a bad miss when you don't let the goalkeeper do his job.
Laudrup has got 4 goals so far this season. All of them have come in league action. McIntyre here putting more pressure on Goff and giving away a free kick that's hotly disputed. Bjorklund. And Andy Gorham, who was the first of the 2 goalkeepers to be tested by that McIntyre effort. Headed away by Baker. Martin Baker again, and Wright again playing on the shoulder, and not so far offside this time.
Yeah, that was very close. Very close indeed. Again, you see Paul Wright, he knows the ball's going to go in there. Maybe from the picture you think maybe he's just a little bit offside. Possibly Goff playing him on the far side, but Paul Wright, believe he will look to get in behind all the time. And sometimes strikers do have to try and, you know, gain that half yard. He's certainly not the quickest, Paul Wright, but a couple of times there he's been very close.
And here's Laudrup, who's already gone to the other end and produced one shot that he will have been disappointed with because he didn't test the goalkeeper, but he's threading a way through again. Turn just unable to deliver the killer ball. And it's Nevin here who set McIntyre away. Goff is back there though.
Good defended by the big man. Used the experience here, got his body in front of the ball, gave Jim McIntyre no chance of winning that one. Foul by McGowan.
Kilmarnock leading the chasing pack behind the top three, but a good 19 points distant. And Gascoigne here to try and unsettle them with one of his specials. He decided to try and play it in, though. Right. Here's Riley. Riley, who's weighed in with one or two invaluable goals from the midfield area this season for Kilmarnock. Holt. He's taken it away from Gascoigne well. Right. This is Nevin. McPherson has moved on ahead of him. He's out to the right, but he slipped it through instead to Paul Wright. McPherson's cross. Crucially cleared by Goff. Here's Riley. Paul Wright. Trying to deliver. Nevin, plenty to his left, but he can't get it through. Bjorklund stops him. Corner to Kilmarnock. Encouraging start.
Yeah, it's a great bit of football from Kilmarnock. First time really Pat Nevin's been involved down this right-hand side. Started the move, a couple of good passes, getting the ball out wide again. Nevin gets the corner.
Cleared to Rosenthal. Good defending from Ray Montgomery, who's been out of the side for the last 7 matches. Longest serving player now in his testimonial season at Rugby Park. Bobby Williamson, the Kilmarnock manager, former Rangers player. Always a special occasion for him, reunited with his old club. There's Holt. This is John Henry. Nevin. Been some good football from Kilmarnock in the opening exchanges. There's Gus McPherson, who was once on Rangers books but never made a senior appearance for them. Holt. Riley. Number 2 again, Gus McPherson. This is Nevin. Lovely layoff. Paul Wright, and it took a deflection off Goff. Corner.
It's good interplay and good reaction from Paul Wright there as well, though Rangers managed to defend it well. But a good ball in here, by a little lucky possibly by Gus in here. Good control by Pot Nevin, well aware who Wright's behind him. Unlucky.
Riley's latest corner. Holt meets it with a header.
He doesn't score many goals. It's not a bad ball in at all. And you've got to say, when he sees it again, he'll be disappointed he never managed to get it on target. At least doesn't score a lot of goals, Gary Holt, but certainly have a chance there.
And when he does score, they tend to be vital ones. Holt, the man who got the goal that basically preserved Kilmarnock's Premier Division status last season when he scored against Aberdeen. Negri here up against Montgomery. Marco Negri, who scored 4 times in the previous 2 meetings with Kilmarnock this season. A challenge by Holt. Here's Bjorklund. Barry Ferguson. Rosenthal. This is Moore. Jonas turn. Perini. Gascoigne.
Just noticed Gascoigne there, Paul. He's feeling a little bit. He seems to be thinking maybe hurt his knee, maybe his calf. He certainly was humpling a little bit there and was quite quick to get the ball away there.
Well, he's been on the bench for the last couple of matches as Paul Gascoigne in the starting lineup tonight. This is great skill from Laudrup. Cleared by Montgomery, who made sure that he was in front of Negri. Perini. Carl. Turn takes over. This is Ferguson. Negri. Montgomery sticking tight to him. Gascoigne here, can he place one in? No, it's left to Jonas Turn. Shaping for the shot!
Wasn't far away, was it? Good play by Rangers there, very patient build-up. Jonas Turn, who hasn't scored a lot of goals since he came to Rangers. You can say here, I still say Gascoigne's struggling. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes off. It's not like him to give the ball away so easy. Good movement by Turn there. My goodness, was he close. Almost there. Good movement by him there. Trying to turn and bend it in. It wasn't far away, was it?
Another player who's only just back after injury. He's missed the last 5 with a back problem as a turn, but the injury problem that's of more immediate attention here for Rangers is Gascoigne, who's not moving too cleverly at all. Rosenthal. Question really of how much longer they can give Gascoigne to run off the problem that he appears to have collected. Laudrup. Ferguson. Rangers throw. All 3 league defeats have been suffered by Rangers on their travels. Dundee United, Celtic and St Johnstone, the teams to beat them in the league. Ferguson here looking for Negri. Shapes up with his back to goal, manages to turn. But Kevin McGowan giving him no room for the shot. This is Baker bringing it clear for Kilmarnock. McIntyre, Goff going in behind.
Richard saying no to the referee, but it was an absolute stonewall foul. He just bundled him from the back there. So that's a good play by McIntyre. Showing close, use your body. If they're going to fund you over like that, we'll take a foul any day.
Gascoigne. Ferguson. This is Moore. Gascoigne looking to release Laudrup. It's a slide rule ball, but Ray Montgomery judged it so well.
A superb pass from Gascoigne, there really was. He's given this injury every time to get it okay, but it's a superb pass, and it's only, my goodness, so close. Good defending by Kilmarnock.
Headed out by McGowan for the throw-in, but you can see why they want to give Gascoigne as long as possible to run off the injury when he provides piercing passes like that. It's Laudrup's cross, it's too deep for Negri. Across comes Jonas Turn. Negri still waiting at the edge of the 6-yard box.
Expect better from an international there, Rob. You know, he's showed good initiative, got onto the ball quick, but a very, very bad cross. Not often you see Laudrup play the ball as deep as that. No one there this time for Rangers. Turn gets onto it in a flash, but that's a bad cross. Just a little bit on Gascoigne there, Rob. He's obviously said to the bench there, to Walter Smith and Archie Knox, that he is okay. Walter's come down into the dugout now. So is obviously their fears are unfounded.
A bit of pulling by McGowan, by Riley rather. Falling down Ferguson.
Well, that's something that the Kilmarnock midfield work on very, very hard. Holt, Henry and Riley not giving your midfield your opposition any chance at all. No space, and they're on him in a flash. Mark Riley's been a mainstay for Kilmarnock this season so far.
Gascoigne's free kick going straight to Gordon Marshall. And Björklund, total confusion! What a catastrophe! And Wright says thank you very much. Gorham and Björklund can argue between themselves, but it was a complete calamity from Marshall's clearance, and Paul Wright profits fully.
What an incredible mix-up. I'll tell you, it's good thing from Gordon Marshall. Early touch, straight down the thing. Björklund's not even looking where Gorham coming. Gorham coming to get the ball. And Paul Wright, well, he's been out of sorts lately, but he knew exactly what was happening there. You can see Björklund's not even looking where Gorham is. Paul Wright says, thank you very much. I'll take that, 1-0. I've got to say, it was a great early ball from Gordon Marshall, putting the Rangers under pressure. And mistakes like that, as a striker, I used to love that.
Well, Paul Wright, the beneficiary there of a very uncharacteristic lapse. Gorham was clearly calling to Björklund, but he didn't heed the warning. And he was furious.
I don't think Andy Swedish is up to much, obviously. But it was a terrible mistake, it really was. You can only presume that Andy has been shouting because Andy's going towards it. And Björklund didn't hear him because Björklund certainly wasn't looking where Andy Gorham was.
Well, it's a Route 1 goal that they're behind to, so Rangers will hope to conjure something from this. Gascoigne in attendance. Would look to be the favourite, but Rosenthal's there as well and takes it, and it comes off the wall.
Not a great free kick. Never bent around the wall. The wall does their job. They're not standing there for nothing. They don't want the ball to get to the goalkeeper, but it wasn't a good free kick.
And the corner kick is taken to Turn, who hasn't been picked up at all, but his attempt is blocked by Holt. Rangers fazed by the goal and the manner in which it's been conceded, and desperate to strike back quickly. Paul Wright has really given them plenty to think about. Cleared towards Wright again, but this time it falls kindly for Björklund. Laudrup just trying to time his run there against Baker, and it's the defender who gets to it.
He's going to have his hands full tonight, Baker, if Laudrup says in that side, but he did well there.
Gascoigne crosses straight into Marshall's hands. Gordon Marshall, who takes a huge slice of credit for the goal and played a big part in it with his assist.
He'll be happy with that take as well. Remember, Kilmarnock are coming off a 4-0 drubbing on Saturday, Robin. You know, they take the lead against the other Old Firm rivals, and they can settle them down a little bit, as well as Gordon Marshall.
Laudrup pulled down by Montgomery. And it looks as though Montgomery, who'd already had a warning for a previous offence, gets booked.
Well, he's certainly got a grip of him there, hasn't he? I mean, he'll obviously claim his innocence. He's maybe a little harsh, because I don't think he's in many too bad tackles, Ray Montgomery. But I suppose if you're going to grab Brian Laudrup like that, then the referee's going to take it as a booking, and that's exactly what's happened.
Well, Montgomery's defensive partner, Kevin McGowan, was sent off against Rangers at Ibrox in November, and Montgomery's the player under pressure now with a yellow card to his name. Slipped through here by Turn, and Gary Holt doing so well there, showing great strength against Rosenthal.
Yeah, I said that earlier on in the midfield. They work so hard, they don't give you any space, and it's exactly what he did there, Gary Holt. Running back, checking for the run for Rosenthal, and they're going to have to do that a lot, Kilmarnock, because they know most of the time it's going to be Rangers' possession, if that's going to be the case. But certainly Kilmarnock have started well. Started the way they've played Rangers every time so far, except this time they've got a little bit of luck, and Paul Wright's putting 1-0 up.
Baker. Here's Gascoigne. Perini. Rosenthal. Gascoigne. Cleared by Montgomery. Wright, the goal scorer, picking out McIntyre. Turn. Header back by McGowan. Marshall not too sure. Bit of uncertainty there between he and Montgomery, but he sorted it out adequately. Goff. Rosenthal. Baker. Nevin. Goff. This is Gascoigne. Looking to set Rosenthal away again. Steadying influence at the back, Montgomery, but he will have to watch his step a little carefully now after that early caution. But it's Rangers at the moment who are really under pressure to that goal that's been scored by Paul Wright, and more worryingly for Rangers, the way they conceded it.
Well, it's a quite unbelievable goal. Every time you see it, it gets worse and worse for Rangers, doesn't it? Bjorklund not looking where Andy Gorham is. Andy surely must have been shouting because he's the one that's facing it. And Paul Wright let them go on with it, nipped in and said, thanks very much.
Just like the one that Peter Schmeichel conceded recently, it's a goal that Andy Gorham won't care to look back on too often. But it's a goal that, the way things stand at the moment, has given a little bit of hope to Celtic and Hearts in the slipstream of Rangers. And here goes Moore. Montgomery. Paul Wright. McIntyre, good first-time ball for Holt to chase onto. And Rangers grateful that Gorham was very alert and aware of the danger.
Good play by Paul Wright there, he instructed things well. Good early ball in, a little bit too close to the goalkeeper, but the idea was right. Rangers been very, very unsteady at the back completely so far in this game, whereas Kilmarnock, I think, have policed the likes of Negri, Laudrup and Rosenthal quite well so far.
Worrying times these for Rangers, although they have had the majority of the possession, they've been unable to do anything with it. Shot from a turn that wasn't very far away, perhaps the best effort they've had in the game so far, although Laudrup did have a good chance before that. But some of Kilmarnock's football has been steady and assured, and they've always looked to threaten this situation with McIntyre. Nevin unable to control.
He's obviously given Pat Nevin, Bobby Williamson there, giving Pat Nevin a licence to go from left to right to pick his side. Pat over on the left-hand side, but certainly took his eye off the ball there.
Baker. Nevin. Not the start that he wanted to his birthday match. Walter Smith, great servant of Rangers, and due a testimonial himself a week tonight, in fact, against Liverpool. Right, here's Henry. Riley. Challenge was by Goff, and in goes Laudrup. There's plenty of steel in that challenge from Goff, which has left Paul Wright grounded. The referee thought it was a perfectly fair and legal challenge, and it's Rangers breaking with it, and Jonas turn. Back to turn from Montgomery. Cleared by Riley, only to the Swede again though, now Laudrup. Perini's made a run into the area for him. Good challenge by McGowan.
He's had a good solid first 25 minutes, Big McGowan at the back there. He's done really well, anything asked of him, he's been equal to it so far.
Paul Gascoigne. Foul by Bjorklund. Jim McIntyre, the player offended against. McPherson. McIntyre. Right, the only Kilmarnock player in the box.
Staffed by Jim McIntyre there. Bjorklund's not had a good 25 minutes on the other hand, talking about McGowan. And really, you could be looking for him to just keep him under pressure there. Don't foul him and try and make him make a mistake. Instead of that, all you do is give Rangers back possession.
Gorham and Bjorklund desperate for something to happen at the other end, so that their memory of the catastrophic goal they conceded might just fade into the distance. Ferguson had made a good run from the midfield, and Gascoigne here could try and pick him out, but it's just too long for him. Gascoigne trying to do what Turn had failed to, because he was crowded out. Right idea, but just too long. Gascoigne again. Brian Laudrup. Now Perini's made a move ahead of him. Great football, he's found him! But he can't find the net.
Exquisite play from Brian Laudrup. Probably the wrong man, Perini, to find in that sort of situation. What defenders don't like, driving into him. A great run from Perini, got to be said. He just had the lead boots there on and crossed it to way to nobody at the back post. Might even have been better having a shot there. But really, he had the diving boots on there to cross that over. But a great move from Rangers.
Sergio Perini actually scored against Kilmarnock in the 4-1 victory back in November. Too short for Perini that time. It was the person who cut it out. It's Perini with the throw-in. Richard Goff. Negri. Gascoigne. Here's Rosenthal. Aiming to find Negri, he's offside.
And we know he's going to try and get free in the box there. I don't know if it's definitely offside there, it's the right decision. But we know he loves to score goals and get in the box there, and that's the only time Kilmarnock are really going to have to be careful in there. Scored from a similar position on Saturday from a Laudrup cross, and he'll look to get in there all night.
Well, plenty of those offsides for Kilmarnock have seen Paul Wright in an advanced position, but he was certainly in the right place at the right time to benefit from a complete breakdown in communication between Björklund and Andy Gorham that's led to Kilmarnock's goal. There did seem to be a call, and a fairly strong one at that, from Gorham, but Björklund proceeded with his action. Paid a heavy penalty, and it all stemmed from this man's clearance. McIntyre. And cheers there for Björklund as he does reach his goalkeeper. Well, it looked a very positive Rangers lineup from the start, and they've switched Rosenthal and Laudrup over to try and add a bit of variety to their play. So far still unable to find the opening to cancel out that Kilmarnock goal. This is Laudrup. Jonas turn. Gascoigne. Laudrup. It's fallen to Rosenthal, and he slipped Laudrup through. Chance for the equaliser, and Marshall denies him at point-blank range.
Good play by Rangers again, though, and managed to get through. Possibly a little bit of luck here as the ball sticks there. But a good pass from Rosenthal through to Laudrup. Again in this position, you'd expect him to score. Got to say, Marshall does really well there.
Laudrup's corner this time, headed away by McIntyre. Turn. Rosenthal. Holt, says Gascoigne. Ferguson. Moore to Goff. Losing out to Nevin, and slipped through by Henry. Björklund, the covering player. Perini. Gascoigne. Rosenthal wide of Perini to his left. The two wide men have switched again. As Turner played that one through, Negri, it's straight offside. Take up. And McIntyre had timed his run well that time. He's onside, and that's left Moore with a retrieval job to do. And McIntyre, just when he seemed set to get through, goes down, but no free kick given against Moore.
Can't believe that. Looked as if Moore's really chopped him down there. The first challenge was okay with the shoulder. You see here, the first challenge is okay there because McIntyre's expecting it. Jim managed to keep it there, but that's a foul for me.
And it was a very, very promising position that for Kilmarnock. McIntyre looked through. He'd shown great awareness anyway. He'd stayed in an offside position to move on to it. Used his strength to get away from Moore in the first place. And can feel hard done by that he didn't get the free kick. Laudrup. John Henry. That was McPherson, and this time it's Holt who's sprung from the midfield and it is onside and has won the corner off Björklund.
Done well, Gary Holt there. He's broke from midfield. It's a hard run to do for a midfield player, but you've got to make it into the corner ball and make it a good ball. He did that and played the ball off of Björklund for a corner.
Ever since Laudrup produced that save from Gordon Marshall, Kilmarnock have really shaken up their ideas. They're not resting on that 1-0 lead. They're sensing perhaps that Rangers could be vulnerable to concede another as Riley's corner is planted in. And they're flying in. It's Nevin going for it. Well cleared by Ferguson. Montgomery. Riley. McPherson. It's Mark Riley again. Holt. Throw into Kilmarnock, and Gus McPherson has come forward to take it. Another player who's recently signed a new contract, a 3-year deal in his case, and he gets this one across. There was a little push there from McIntyre on Goff. Reminder of action coming up for you here on Sky Sports. Barnsley against Manchester United in our FA Cup special. That's Wednesday at 7:30 on Sky Sports 2. With the replay coming up in that match, memories of the goal that Peter Schmeichel conceded to John Hendry in the first match. Not exactly echoes of that with Björklund and Andy Gorham, but still a horrible moment for both players concerned tonight. Goff. Baker. Well chested down by McIntyre. Björklund tidying up, and Rosenthal just finding a little bit of space. Negri making a move to the left for him, and he's found him. Montgomery's attentions forced him to take the chance early.
Well, he's made the run, making sure Rosenthal knows exactly where he's going. He's sprinting away, trying to get a yard. Half gets it. It's a hard chance. It's a half chance possibly, but it would have been a tremendous finish if they got it. But nevertheless, you know just how dangerous Negri is, and good play by Montgomery there, just making sure he didn't have a free shot and goal.
Well, Rangers will keep battering away and may already have managed more attempts at the moment, but not too many on target for them at the moment. But Negri's 2 goals in the meeting of the sides at Ibrox in November came in the last 3 minutes of that encounter. Indeed, the score was 1-1 going into the last 5 minutes of the match, so Kilmarnock will be taking nothing for granted here. Brian Laudrup. He's looking for Ferguson. Cleared by Baker's header, and this is Nevin. Gascoigne. Rosenthal. Cleared by Montgomery after it had taken an unfortunate deflection off Henry. Baker. Rangers, remember, have won 12 of their last 14 league meetings with Kilmarnock, and they're unbeaten in their last 7 visits to Rugby Park. But defeat here against Bobby Williamson's men tonight would be very costly for Rangers. Walter Smith is already contemplating a change here, and Gordon Dury, who did start at the weekend, is going to come on now, and it's Paul Gascoigne that he's taking the place of.
Well, we spotted earlier on Gascoigne was struggling, Rob, and it's been noticeable over the last 10-15 minutes where at no time has Paul Gascoigne done what he normally does, is get the ball and drive into the defence to try and support the front players. That hasn't happened at all. And they've got Gordon Dury on. Gordon actually spoke to him before the game, wasn't that happy to be dropped here. He'll be happy to get a chance now and prove that Walter Smith shouldn't have dropped him in the first place.
Dury getting a touch here for Laudrup. Cleared by McGowan. Brian Laudrup again. Jonas turn. This is Moore. Ferguson. Nevin could afford to leave it. Moore unable to connect. Well, there's the problem that has afflicted Paul Gascoigne. It's a disappointing comeback for him, and he really does appear to be inconsolable.
Yeah, it doesn't. Certainly the muscle below the calf, between the calf and the Achilles at the bottom, it'll just be a real niggling injury, difficult to get away, because every step you take, the muscle works, and that's the problem, and they'll ice that probably right away, and hopefully it certainly doesn't need an x-ray, and it's just a muscle problem, which means it still means a couple of weeks to 2 to 3 weeks anyway.
Gascoigne did sign a new 3-year contract, but still speculation abounds about his future, and every time that injuries flare up, the question of whether he'll be fit to go to France in 1998 rears its head. And on the day that Robbie Fowler's position in the squad was put in jeopardy by his injury, it's not a pleasant sight for Glenn Hobble to see Gascoigne going off with a recurrence of an injury problem. Offside here against McIntyre.
Again, see, actually Jim's trying to get back on side there. It's a super ball through, but correct result, he's definitely offside there.
Jim McIntyre is a player who's been badly affected by injuries this season. He's only recently back after 6 months out with a serious knee problem. There's McGowan. Perini into the back of Paul Wright, who emerges unscathed to try and put McIntyre in the clear. But it's Björklund tidying up this time. Richard Goff. Goff, who answered Walter Smith's SOS to return after his spell in the United States, but he will seem California bound again next season. But is he going to get the opportunity, having been a mainstay of the previous 9 title campaigns, to win a 10th in succession? Injury here for Ferguson.
I said they wouldn't give them a minute in midfield, and that's exactly what's happening. John Henry coming in and Barry Ferguson there. Barry, young player, even by Walter Smith saying, you know, he's played in a few games, maybe even he thought that Barry wouldn't play, and he'll certainly play a big part in Rangers' future, you'd think.
Goff. Henry getting back. At a time when they have been buying big and buying largely from the continent, though, it's good to see a product of the youth system in the team in the form of this man, Ferguson. Nevin. Ferguson battling hard again to try and set Laudrup away. Tidied up by Montgomery, who's already shown how crucial his experience can be. Moore has come forward for the throw-in here. Laudrup beaten off the ball. This is Nevin. Henry. Montgomery under pressure from Jury. And given away by Björklund this time to Wright. McIntyre. Tidied up by Ferguson. Moore. Unable to escape the lunging challenge of Jim McIntyre, who may just have tested the referee's patience a little too much.
They certainly caught him. It's good play by Craig Moore then, showing a little bit the ball, good turn. I don't think he'll get booked, I think it'll just be a ticking off. Jim hasn't had too many heavy tackles in the game, but he certainly caught Craig Moore there. I think if he does it again, he'll find his way into the book.
Gordon Durie.
Gordon Durie here powering down the left-hand side. He's looking to get into the Scotland team, of course, and very difficult for him to get into the starting lineup all the time because of the big stars Rangers have, but it's an opportunity for him tonight, as I said earlier on, to prove to Wallace Smith that he's worth a place in the team.
Here's Laudrup. Goff. Here's Björklund. Here's Perini. Jury. Björklund. He's carried that on too far. It's not been a happy night at all for Björklund so far. This is Nevin. Losing out for Ferguson. This is Brian Laudrup. Negri letting it go. Jury retrieving for Rosenthal. Negri furious. He wanted the ball played into him.
Yeah, he got a couple of yards, Negri, actually. He's always looking to ghost in behind defenders. It's really not happening for Rangers just now. I've got to say the middle two, you've got to say the back four for Kilmarnock. They're policing everything really well, and that's a bit of hit and hope really from Rosenthal. That's not going to, trouble Gordon Marshall's goal at all. Rangers are going to be looking for a lot more than that from him.
And it's worth saying that if the score stays this way, then Rangers would be knocked off the top of the table tonight. Because Celtic's goal difference would be better. Both of them came into it with a plus 30 goal difference. The Rangers have now conceded their 28th goal of the season in league football. And now need to get back into this game to maintain their position at the head of the table. Jonas Turn with the free kick, and Richard Goff has gone forward for it. That was Ferguson, and Montgomery in confusion, and Goff winning the corner.
Well, it's the first time the two in defence they've been superb so far. First time really tonight they'll let one another deal with it. Thankfully they managed to get the block in from Richard Goff's shot.
Corner played back to Rosenthal. Here's Goff. Jury. Jury.
Well, we know he's a fierce competitor, Gordon Durie. A little bit over the top there, that's a dangerous tackle. But Gordon knows that he's got to get on the ball and got to make things happen for Rangers, because right now Bobby Williamson's going to be really pleased with the way his team's played in the first half. And all the problems are with Walter Smith, and he'll have to make, not necessarily a few changes, but certainly a few words because Rangers, as I said before, have been unconvincing last week, and again, Rob, tonight in the first 45 minutes they've been very unconvincing.
Right here going in to challenge Gorham again. Foul by Riley. And free kick taken well out of position. Here's Turn. Rosenthal. Goff has stayed in the attack with Jury and Negri. It is Richard Goff. Perini. Negri just getting back on side at the right moment. And looked very theatrically at the referee there for a penalty, and maybe did his cause no good at all.
No, I don't think... okay, let's call it a little one-upmanship, but he's not going to get a penalty for that.
Laudrup. And headed behind by Baker for the corner.
Just back on Negri there very quickly, Rob. I think the space he had actually been better, actually concentrating, get the ball down and under control and having a swivel shot on goal. Instead of that, looking for the penalty has brought Rangers nothing at all.
Ferguson's corner. And there goes the half-time whistle in a very disappointing first half for Rangers, after which there'll be plenty of inquests. Paul Wright benefiting from a defensive mistake, a complete breakdown in communication between Björklund and Andy Gorham, who appeared to be calling to his defender as Gordon Marshall's launch clearance went down the other end. Gorham came for it, Björklund didn't see him, didn't hear him, total catastrophe, and Paul Wright was the beneficiary to give Kilmarnock a half-time lead and leave some very anguished players. That anguish will undoubtedly spill over in the Rangers dressing room at half-time, where the scoreline is Kilmarnock 1, Rangers 0.
And what a story this game is turning into. Kilmarnock in front and Rangers in trouble. Rangers have won 4 corners to only 3 for the home side, but really not much penetration from Rangers as they look for a good win to take themselves clear on top again. 1 first half booking, Ray Montgomery for Kilmarnock. Squeezed into that middle third of the field, and Rangers again plenty of possession of the football, but where is the penetration for them? And just to remind you, if it stays like this, Celtic go back to the top ahead of their own game tomorrow night. Charlie Nicholas and Trevor Stephen with me. What's going wrong for Rangers?
I just feel it's been fairly uninspired, and there's not been a great deal to shout about as far as Walter Smith's concerned. He certainly won't be enjoying his 50th birthday this evening rather. Kilmarnock have been dogged, they've been determined, but an error has allowed them to take the lead before half-time, and you can't say that they don't deserve it. They've worked hard and probably getting out of the game what they feel they deserve.
And a big story not just for Rangers, but again maybe for England, Paul Gascoigne out of the game. Charlie, do you feel there was an early tackle which maybe caused the damage?
I'm not sure quite if it was a heavy knock that he took, Paul, but I mean it was in the first minute of the game. It was very early on, and I think Big Alan called it when he says he lunges in a little bit. He's in there and he's trying to battle to win it. He's maybe just slightly overstretched and maybe just done a little muscle just below the calf, but for me, after 5 minutes you could see he just wasn't mobile at all. There's this little stretch coming in now, lands on the outside his heel, and I think that's agitated the muscle, and he was in trouble ever since that first minute.
Trevor, just shades of, do you remember the famous Gary Charles Cup final tackle, over exuberance, another case of that from Gascoigne tonight?
I think he was back in the team and he wanted to do well, and when that happened I took the wind right out of his sails, and he's not, it was obvious he couldn't perform as he wanted to perform, and I think Walter Smith had said, right, Jonas Turn, Paul Gascoigne, you provide that ammunition, give the ball to Laudrup, and you've got Rosenthal and Negri in there to score the goals, and it just didn't work out like that.
So no penetration from Rangers going forward, but how about defensively?
Well, this is the Rangers side that we've seen in the last 5 or 6 weeks, which has been indecisive at the back. Björklund and Gorham, it simply doesn't look Björklund, but I've got to say in his defence, I think he's in control of the situation. He's got the pace in Paul Wright. I don't think Andy Gorham needs to come out there. I think it's under control. But credit to the striker, he read the situation, and he's grateful for it.
Trevor?
I just, typical of really what's been on display there, just a lack of focus, a lack of togetherness. And Bjorklund, all right, he was under pressure, but he couldn't really afford to take his eye off the ball too much.
Not the first time it's happened between them, is it?
No, that's right. It's been an incident before with between Andy Gorham and
the high-angle view of tonight's first up.
Yeah, Andy had to make the decision there, and
here's the one against Dundee United.
Yeah, again, it's a slip by Andy. This was the first one that I'd ever seen Andy.
Yeah, it's Bjorklund run away there, Trev. I mean, he passes it back. He doesn't want to take any responsibility and just hides behind the striker. I mean, Andy gets the blame for it, but at the same time, the two of them should get it sorted out. They are going for a championship.
Brian Laudrup, how much of a feature has he been tonight?
Not a lot. I don't think he's done very much at all. Although he's had a couple of good opportunities, I would have to say you would have put your mortgage on this. At least maybe thinking about squaring it, but I thought he would have scored. He'd won early on in the first half, where we thought he might have done better also. Just a little maybe indecision again, and this is a team I look at tonight and feel the strain is now starting to tell on them.
Well, they've had to come from behind a few times, haven't they? And maybe the strain is starting to tell on Rangers. They've got to get themselves up and get out there for the second half. If they lose here tonight, just to remind you, Celtic will be back to the top. It's also a great result for Hearts. Rangers in trouble here. Trouble at Kilmarnock. They trail at half-time, and Paul Gascoigne off injured in the first half. We think maybe the damage done in the opening minute of the game. A fresh worry, not only for Walter Smith and Rangers, but for Glenn Hoddle, the England boss, with Robbie Fowler also looking to be out of his World Cup reckoning today. Charlie Nicholas, how do Rangers get this one back tonight?
Well, they've got to show a bit more urgency about their play. I think Negri's sitting up there and not getting really any service. There's been a few half chances, but nothing other. At the defence, they still look for me as if they're nervous. They've got to put a lot more pressure on Kilmarnock, but credit to Kilmarnock, Paul, they're playing well.
Trevor, Stephen?
Yeah, just got to get some zest and some zip into the play. They haven't done anything like enough as yet. It looks a bit of an imbalanced team with Perini at left back, missing Albert and Cleland, I believe. But it's not working with Rosenthal and Negri, and they've got to find a way around that.
Thank you. Back we go to Alan McNally, and first Rob Hawthorne.
And there has been a change made by Walter Smith at half-time, and Joachim Björklund, who was involved in the mistake that led to the goal, has been taken off, and on in his place comes the Australian defender Tony Vidmar, who's been out for the last few matches, but gets his chance in this second half, and clearly Björklund's spirit had been broken by the incident that led to the Paul Wright goal.
Well, I think apart from the goal, I think his 45 minutes was quite atrocious for an international player. I know it's easy to have a bad night, but quite honestly, when you're going for a championship, Rob, you just can't have bad nights, and probably I think Walter Smith is heading on safety here by hoping Vidmar's hungry enough to tighten defence up, and let's see what happens then.
They've actually lined up for the second half with Goff on the right, then Moore, then Perini, and Vidmar starting on the left-hand side of the defence. We'll wait and see if that's the way that it stays. This is Moore, and this is Turn, and now Vidmar gets his first touch for Rangers. Jonas Turn, Jury, who was brought on in the first half for Gascoigne, and that could be the most crucial absence as far as Rangers are concerned, unless Laudrup can prise Kilmarnock open here. It's fallen to Ferguson. Turn. And it's slipped past Marco Negri and gone for the goal kick. Well, what are Walter Smith's side going to do now that Gascoigne is off the field? They would have been looking for his probing passes to have an impact late on. But the doctor is still examining Gascoigne at the moment, and he may well have to go off later for an X-ray.
I think he's certain to get an X-ray, Rob. I don't think they'll want to take a chance. It's in an area where, you know, fractures are liable. I don't think it was maybe as bad as that, but a muscle tear, nevertheless, I think he'll need to get an X-ray just to make sure.
After tonight, 10 games left for Rangers in the championship run-in, and they've conceded a corner here. Craig Moore giving a ball that Andy Gorham was unable to keep in play.
Well, he's not under any pressure, and it's quite simply bad defending. Not much Andy Gorham can do about that, I'm afraid.
And just how costly is the edginess in front of Andy Gorham to be tonight? Unfortunately for them, they've picked up the threads of where they left off in the first half. And Kilmarnock have been very busy. And you'd never get bet against Paul Wright, adding to the one he scored already. Nevin with a corner. Free header away for Perini. That's McPherson. Look for McIntyre. But there's an injury to Gordon Jury, and the referee has called back attention for it. It looks like there was a clash here with Jury, and as a head injury, the referee had no alternative but to stop play immediately.
Yeah, he's quite right here. It's Gary Holt, I think, with Jury, and as Gordon's won the header, certainly both of them have made head contact with each other, and that's what happens nowadays. You know, if it's such as bad as that, and the two of them are looking as if they're struggling, then he's only got one option, and that's to stop the game. We don't want anything bad to happen.
I don't think the Kilmarnock fans had actually spotted that there were two players involved, and that it might be a case of head injuries, and were initially frustrated that play had been stopped when they were in an attacking situation. But it's clear that the referee had no alternative. While they're being treated, let's get an update now on Paul Gascoigne's problems, and over to our reporter Davy Provan.
Yeah, Paul Gascoigne at the moment, Rob, is in with the Rangers doctor, Dr. Cruikshank. He's examining the injury at the moment. The Rangers kit man, Jim Bell, has just come down the tunnel, and he tells me they're trying to arrange an X-ray for Paul Gascoigne. It may just be a precautionary measure, but it looks like an X-ray for Paul Gascoigne nevertheless.
And as if that wasn't bad enough, just look at the problems that Gordon Jury is encountering. There's blood coming from that head wound, as there was from Gary Holt's too, and he has already been led off the field. And it may well be a case that both sides will have to be temporarily reduced to 10 men, although in Rangers' case that's particularly distressing, as Jury was the man who came on for Gascoigne in the first instance.
You can see Gordon Jury's on looking at the ball, wins the header. The head clash was almost inevitable there. You can show the referee was absolutely right. You can see there's blood from both of the guys' heads, and we both need treatment immediately here.
So it is down to 10 against 10. And while Jury is treated behind the goal, Paul Wright engaged in a very sporting act, in that from the bounce up, after Kilmarnock, remember, had been in a very promising attacking situation, played it out for the goal kick. Negri. There's Vidmar. Linking up with Brian Laudrup. The cross goes behind for the goal kick. Well, Jury didn't have need to go to the dressing room, unlike the other player in whom he was involved in that clash, so he's now back on. You would imagine that he would have felt a little groggy after that clash of heads. Kilmarnock, remember, at the moment still down to 10 men. Holt is the player off. Here's Perini. And Negri this time pulling away behind Montgomery, but he got to it. Laudrup. Vidmar placing it in, and Negri wisely left it for Rosenthal. Negri waiting at the edge of the 6-yard box. Jury making a run for him. But Jury couldn't pull it back.
You've got to say it's not a particularly great play by Rosenthal here. Delays in the ball, it'll be a good defending though, it's got to be said, and when Gordon makes a run, really he's got no chance of getting that, and that's actually a slack play by an international. If you want to be, winning championships, really your build-up play's got to be better than that.
It's a Kilmarnock defence that has been leaking goals in the last couple of games, but they're holding firm here against the potency of the Rangers' attack. Negri, who's been so prolific, hasn't really had a sniff tonight. They haven't scored in their 2 games before tonight, Kilmarnock, but they let in 6 goals in losing their last 2 matches, and yet here they are protecting a 1-0 lead against the team that came into this match as leaders, but may well end it off the top. Celtic poised to go to the top of the table if things stay as they are. Carini here looking to hit Negri, but he's straight offside, and his frustration throughout the game has been mounting. We saw with his penalty claim towards the end of the first half that.
Yeah, he's definitely offside there, Straight. Good ball in the writing-up. It's got to be said that McGowan and Montgomery really have policed him well, and as you said already, Rob, really hasn't had a sniff tonight, and things are becoming more and more frustrating for him. He's going to try and steal that extra half yard, and thankfully for Kilmarnock for supporters anyway there, he was offside.
The 2 goals that he scored late on in the meeting in November against Kilmarnock, one of Negri's was from the penalty spot, so he'll be looking to win any verdict he can from the referee tonight. And now another problem for Gordon Durie, who's not had the happiest of nights since he came on for Paul Gascoigne. And it looks to be a recurrence of the problem that he suffered initially in that clash with Gary Holt, and Walter Smith is
he's just
anxiously.
Yeah, he's just taking the sign from Richard Gough there. Richard gave the sign to make a substitute, and that's what brought the stretchers on right away, and Walter Smith acknowledged that fact right away, and I think they'll definitely make a change. You're going to see it here, Gordon. No, he's just struggling badly, really struggling. Obviously that knock from before is just, he's presumably got double vision, Gordon, and really, if it's got it as bad as that, you can see it would need to be bad if Gordon Durie's going to go down, and it obviously is, and we're going to see a change.
Well, it was a brave attempt by Gordon Durie to try and battle on despite the severity of the initial injury. But he is going to be taken off now, and that has to be the wisest course of action. And the player who is going to come on to take his place is Jonathan Johansson, player from Finland, who hasn't really had too many opportunities in the Rangers first team. Every time that he has been used, it has been from the bench as a substitute.
Gary Holt came back as well onto the touchline.
Yeah, so Holt is ready to bolster Kilmarnock's strength. They've been down to 10 men for a while now after the initial collision, but Holt is coming back on. This was the injury that caused the problems for both players. It really was an horrendous clash, and while Holt went away to the dressing room to be treated, Durie was taken behind the goal, and although the initial problem was sorted out, he clearly felt that he couldn't continue. And that really is a very sorry sight for Rangers. Johansson now try and take his chance.
Sorry for Gordon Durie as well. I already said that he was disappointed at not being included in the starting lineup tonight, and then all of a sudden got his opportunity to prove to Walter Smith that he may have been able to start the game, and when you see Gordon lying on the stretcher like that, that's not good. It's also not good for, you know, the Scotland chances as well. We're looking for Gordon Durie to put a run of games in the Rangers team to give us match fitness to going into France, and not only all Rangers fans or football fans, but Craig Brown won't be particularly happy with that sight either.
Well, Gordon Durie has always been a very wholehearted player, and he brought that great commitment onto the field when he was introduced in place of Paul Gascoigne. The loss of Gascoigne was a difficult one to bear, but the loss of Durie in these circumstances makes it all the more difficult for Rangers. And it is not a very happy sight at all. Here's Baker with a throw. Paul Wright. Gough. Back to Andy Gorham. And you wonder about the effect that that will have on the players anyway. It's a difficult enough job for them anyway, coming back into this game, but the sight of Gordon Jury being taken away, as he has been, is bound to play on the mind of one or two of his colleagues.
I think the problem Rangers have, Rob, as well, is the fact that we're looking for some consistency of Rangers, and what they've had tonight is just complete and utter turmoil. They haven't played the same starting lineup. They've now made 2 forced changes, and they're a goal behind, so things are not looking good.
Here's Goff. This is Ferguson. Good run from Ferguson. Montgomery. Beaten off the ball by Rosenthal. A free kick given to Kilmarnock.
Considering Ray Montgomery hasn't played too often, he's had a good game tonight so far in the heart of that Kilmarnock defence.
They've shown Ray Montgomery and Kevin McGowan that they're going to be very difficult to break down tonight. It's going to need the full repertoire of Laudrup skills and the finishing prowess of Marco Negri if they're to make something of this. But again, his frustration is evident. He claims he was being held over by McGowan, but it might just break here for the substitute. Vidmar! A great challenge, last-ditch challenge from Gary Holt.
What a super challenge that was. Off the park, 3 stitches in his head, and has really to bomb over to try and get it out of Vidmar. I thought Vidmar was going to lift his head and play in Rosenthal at the back post. Didn't do that, but what a great challenge from Gary Holt there.
Well, Holt did actually hurt himself in making the challenge, but Vidmar there thought he was going to make a dramatic entrance.
You see here, he's missed it. Vidmar Bolton, if he just lifts his head, he can play Rosenthal in. What a super challenge by Gary Holt. And unfortunately for him, actually, he's injured himself in the process, but a great tackle there.
He really did put everything into it, at some cost to himself there. Holt, who's only just been back to the dressing room for treatment to the head injury. And now the impact of that challenge taking its toll. But Vidmar, the man who really gave Kilmarnock such a scare, is also requiring further treatment.
Because your boys on double time tonight, they seem never to be off the pitch this evening.
Well, what all of this means, of course, is that there is going to be an agonising length of stoppage time to be added on at the end. And if it's still 1-0, it could be a nervy closing few stages.
If he just lifts his head there, he could have played Rosenthal, but not only is it a good tackle, but it's a clean tackle. And naturally important, with only Gordon Marshall to beat, Vidmar would have surely scored.
The flick from right, this is Nevin. Jonas turn. Ball played back by McGowan to Marshall. Nevin offside. Goff. Well, Negri let it go, and McGowan was there behind him to tidy up, as he has done so often, and it's another Kilmarnock break, and it's McIntyre who'll have to do it on his own. Henry has joined the attack now. He tried to place it. Just left McIntyre with a little too much to do. Henry and Nevin were trying to battle forward, but just couldn't get forward quickly enough. Now Vidmar goes down, free kick.
He's looked pretty lively since he came on, Vidmar. I must say, it's good driving in here. He's just been brought down by McGowan. There's not a great deal of touch. He's probably looking for the foul. Probably needs a breather after a hard 15-20 minutes of just coming on at the start of the second half. He certainly has at least looked a little livelier than Bjorkman did.
Ferguson. Rosenthal. Cleared by McGowan. Led away by Tony Vidmar.
I just gave him the kiss of death there, didn't I?
Well, Vidmar certainly has given Kilmarnock plenty to think about, though. This is McIntyre. McPherson. And they've stayed onside. He broke just at the right moment, did John Henry, and he's looking for Nevin. Headed away by Johansson.
It was a super run from John Henry. He's definitely not offside. He's come from deep. As soon as the ball's laid back, I said in the first half, some of the midfield players, you've got to take a chance and get into those corners, get in behind your opposition, and that's exactly what Kilmarnock did there. And it's a good job Johansson was there.
Kilmarnock move in front on the corner count. And McIntyre was going for it, cleared by Goff to Nevin. And McIntyre just couldn't direct his effort goalwards. But again, more panic in what has been a very uncertain Rangers defence.
When he sees this again, he won't like it. Again, it's not particularly great defending by Rangers. It's only half cleared. Ball comes in. Oh my goodness, what a great chance. Completely full space for him. Just never made contact. He's already put the ball in the net, unfortunately, taking his eye off it. And he doesn't make contact. Rangers managed to clear the danger.
The Rangers defence looking as ugly as it possibly has throughout the rest of the previous campaign. There's Nevin. Foul by Craig Moore. And Gary Holt very much a man in the wars at the moment.
Doesn't seem to be a great deal, but Gary's down again. I don't know if he's going to need any treatment. He's certainly staying down. That's possibly a reaction from the same injury he had when he made the super tackle on Tony Vidmar.
Perini. Right. And here's Goff. Gorham bringing it a long way out before finding Richard Goff. Moore. Johansson. Laudrup. Here's Jonas turn. Henry. Right. Nevin. This is Baker. Holt. McGowan. And the challenge by Goff, conceding the free kick, which McPherson wanted to take quickly and wanted to take a little too quickly. The retake from Gus McPherson. Right, McIntyre and Nevin forward in a three-man front line here for Kilmarnock if they can pick any of them out. Cleared by Goff, but only to Paul Wright. And the game has taken a bit of a downturn, and it's not surprising really, bearing in mind the sight of Gordon Jury being wheeled away. I think it may have had an effect on the players from both sides. And we are hearing worrying news that Gordon Jury is unconscious and has been taken to hospital under police escort. And I think that really has taken the game down a notch. The players were aware of just how serious the problem was and are having difficulty picking up the threads of the game itself. with their concern for Gordon Durie, quite understandable. The game almost seemingly doesn't matter.
It certainly seems a bit suiting Kilmarnock more at the moment because the game's very, very patchy, and they're certainly quite comfortable at the moment, Rob, but I don't like to hear that about any player, and let's hope he's okay.
And as he goes to hospital, I know that he will carry with him the best wishes of both teams here. One of those occasions where all rivalry is laid to rest. It is a throw-in here to Rangers, and it's found Richard Goff. Jonas turn, and Marco Negri just straying into an offside position.
He's done that a lot, hasn't he? He's becoming more and more frustrated. McGowan and Montgomery, who I think have been superb tonight in policing him. You can see that he's talking to himself. He's not happy, and he knows really he's got to get the goals if Rangers are going to get themselves back in this game, Robin. Quite honestly, at the moment it doesn't look like it, and they're just every bit as convincing as they have really over the last 3 or 4 games.
Here goes Laudrup, and he's won the corner off Gary Holt. Holt, who's played a great protective role for Kilmarnock, and continues to do so from this corner, which is taken by Laudrup. Goff flying in with a header, and it took a couple of touches. Negri just unable to get there. Nevin it was in the end who cleared it. This is Ferguson. Laudrup. And a testing cross for Marshall, and he hasn't held it. And Goff with the goalkeeper out of position. Rescued by Nevin initially, but Tarn gets it in! And that is a splendid finish! Jonas Tarn capitalising on the uncertainty as Marshall came and didn't conquer, and Rangers draw level.
Well, quite unbelievable. It's the first time Laudrup really in the second half has been involved. Marshall come out, Goff tried to leave it. Marshall can't get back to his goal. Great vision by Jonas Tarn, got to be said, and a super flighted ball in. So we're almost waiting for each other to have a goal. Marshall didn't get back onto his line quick enough, but great vision by Jonas Tarn there. You can see it's superb from here. Everybody trying to get out, leaving the goalkeeper bare. And Jonas Tarn makes it 1 each.
It was an excellently executed finish. There was a lot of confusion in the Kilmarnock area as Negri here is caught offside, but he certainly had to pick his spot, and there were a lot of bodies in front of him, and he bent the ball over beautifully, Jonas Tarn.
Yeah, it's got to be said too, when you see the ball coming in, first really time Laudrup's been involved in the second half. Marshall comes to get it, misses it. Goff actually tries to leave it, I think, to Rosenthal there. It's defended, and you can see Martin Baker bombing off his line. Shouldn't have done that. Leaves the goal completely bare. You can see Gordon Marshall's furious, but I wonder why Martin Baker tried to come off the line there, presumably to push out, to try and make it as though Rangers were going to be caught offside. But just in doing that, all he's done is leave the goal bare, and Jonas Tarn had the easiest task to put it in an open net.
Well, Kilmarnock now taking that as the signal to make a change, and off goes Jim McIntyre, and on in his place comes the Frenchman Jérôme Baray, who's figured in almost every game this season. The only one he's missed, the October defeat at Celtic. But he's coming on at a difficult time where Kilmarnock, having seemingly had the game in the palm of their hands, have just conceded an equaliser, and Rangers, who understandably have taken a long time to shake off the effects of seeing Gordon Durie taken away with a serious injury, have now got the goal that, for the moment, banishes thoughts of the first half breakdown in communication between Björklund and Gorham that led to Wright scoring. But it's Wright with the ball at his feet again from this free kick. They're protesting at the distance of the three-man wall. Laudrup, Ferguson and Tarn taking up residency and refusing to be shifted. Wright has to get it through, and Gorham was equal to it.
He's a good striker of a dead ball. Just, Rob, as you were saying there, we're protesting about the wall. That told you right away that Paul Wright was already thinking in his head of having a strike. Hit it well. Andy Gorham was equal to that one.
There's a real daisy cutter from Paul Wright. He'd been hoping, presumably, that a little divot in front of Gorham might just take it away from the goalkeeper, but Gorham kept his concentration. Here's Ferguson. This is Johansson. Laudrup. Rangers now really testing Kilmarnock's resistance, and Laudrup has got through, and he got it through Marshall as well, and behind him it was McGowan who had to sort that one out. And here's Negri, and he's brought it down with his hand. And another horrible moment there for Gordon Marshall.
Well, really, Laudrup starting to get the grip of the game. We haven't seen a great much of him, really, but a good run to the byline here. But Gordon's catching fresh air. My goodness, it's a good job McGowan's foot was there. Well, it looked as though Negri would have an easy tap in, but just over the last 5 or 10 minutes, he hadn't had a great deal to do, Gordon Marshall, so far in the game, really. And the last couple of times, my goodness, he's been a little bit shaky.
It's been a real up-and-down night so far for Gordon Marshall. Marshall, who has Rangers and Celtic as part of his history, started his career at Rangers, made a series of unsuccessful title challenges while at Celtic, and really gave hope that Celtic might be at the top of the table tonight with the assist that led to the first goal, the long punted clearance. But it was his failure to collect Laudrup's cross that led to the equaliser, and failure to collect another Laudrup ball that almost led to a second. It's another change here now for Kilmarnock, and Paul Wright is the player going off to be replaced by Mark Roberts.
I know Mark Roberts very well in a very short time here at Kilmarnock. A very, very talented youngster indeed. Has scored a few goals for them, and just with fresh legs, with Roberts and Varai coming on the league, I think Bobby Williamson knows that they're not particularly steady at the back at the moment, Rangers, and he's been looking for those fresh legs to put them under his pressure as much as they can.
Bobby Williamson hoping that the fresh legs of Mark Roberts can do the trick. A player who's come through the youth ranks. They showed such faith in him that they gave him his debut at 16 years of age. Here's Laudrup. Johansson's cross, and Marshall had to be sure again and could only punch clear. Nevin. Nevin running himself in circles, conceding a throw-in in an area from where Rangers could benefit. Nevin. Baker. Header by Moore. Henry.
Those fresh legs are certainly worked there. Jerome Varai nipping in front of Perini. Just managed to get the ball. Perini brings him down.
Varai back on his feet and ambling forward. Space here for John Henry to exploit. Turn coming across to close him down now. McPherson. Jonas Turn. Jerome Varai, and taken down by Perini. There were other defenders back there covering, but there is going to be a card here for Perini, and it's a yellow one.
Absolutely right. Well, he's only done this literally 30 seconds before, hasn't he? Got away with it, and this time Varai striding on. Perini late with the challenge, and this time he finds himself into Bobby Orr's book. It's not been a dirty game, Rob, really, but certainly both bookings have probably been deserved.
Well, no Paul Wright for the free kick this time. So Kevin McGowan has opted to seize control of the situation. Mark Riley, who's got a sweet left foot to his left, although McGowan is going for it. And again, Gorham is behind it. That one not as troublesome as Wright's earlier effort.
I'm more hopeful than anything else. Never seen the big man score from there in my life, and nothing's changed my mind from there.
Perini. John Henry fouled by Jonas Turn.
Good control by John there. Turn a little bit impetuous, certainly brought him down, and not every stop's going to help Kilmarnock here, Rob. There's another one who's going to he's going to book him.
Yeah, it's Johansson. And he's shown the yellow card.
I mean, it's probably the softest booking all night. I mean, there wasn't a great deal in that. Hope Bobby Orr doesn't lose it. For every challenge he's going to book him. Certainly nothing in that there. A little bit of professionalism on Pat Nevin's part. We'll just put it down to that.
Using his experience, I think they would say, would they? Taken by Baker. Ferguson. Here's Vidmar. He's made some useful inroads since he came on for the second half, but Henry putting up the no entry signs then. Moore. Goff. Turn. Rangers with everyone except Andy Gorham inside their opponent's half. Goff has just pulled back now. McPherson. Perini. The draw would be very much 2 points dropped in Rangers' case. They, you do sense, have to go for the win here tonight.
In every sense, there's no question about it, Rob. We don't go for away draws at this time of the season. Got to say it'll be a point game for Kilmarnock, there's no question about that, and I think half of Edinburgh and half of Glasgow will jump out their seats if it stays like this.
In past seasons, when they've made slip-ups, they've had a big enough points gap at the top of the table to take care of it. But this time, two rivals breathing down their necks, and Rangers desperately needing the victory, and this is another great break which doesn't have a great finish to it from Vidmar.
Since he's come on, I mean, he certainly loves to drive in for a big defender. I mean, when there's space in front of him, he certainly drives in. Unfortunately, he's not the best finisher in the world, is he?
Reminder of our midweek FA Cup action for you. It's Barnsley against Manchester United in our FA Cup special, Wednesday at 7:30 on Sky Sports 2. Replay from Oakwell. Of course, Kilmarnock, the Scottish Cup holders, but they won't be retaining that trophy this season. Beaten by Ayr. But they're in a position of respectability at the moment in the league. Fourth in the table. Baker. Jonas Turn. This is Vidmar. Rosenthal. Laudrup. Goff. Moore. Johansson. Deflected away by Baker, but Johansson has kept it in play and won the corner. Johansson taking up a position inside the 6-yard box. Ferguson looking to locate Goff. It's Ferguson who drives it in. And now can Henry spring Kilmarnock clear? Varai is forward calling for it. And now Nevin is bursting from the midfield. Roberts is up in support too. And it's Rosenthal who comes back with a heavy back pass that Goran controls well.
Bobby Williamson will be livid there with Jerome Varai. Pat Nevin's Buster got to try and support him there, and all he needs to do is play him in. And he tried to be a hero and take it on himself, and all he's done is given Rangers possession again.
Nevin. Riley. This is Varai. Baker. Nevin. Turned out by Johansson. Bobby Williamson urging a mountainous effort from his troops in the closing 7 minutes of this match to win a game that they thought they'd perhaps won already with that first half goal. There's Varai. Roberts. Good work here from Kilmarnock. Riley beyond Henry. And a good clearance by Goff. Brian Laudrup. Good challenge by Holt. And great work from Gary Holt. And the offside flag goes up. Must have been very tight, but Varai is flagged offside.
That must have been very tight. They've got to say it was superb play by Gary Holt. He didn't go to ground. A great challenge on Brian Laudrup. Shows great feet there. Oh yeah, he was offside. Most definitely offside. You see it great from the camera angle there, but just when it happened, I thought, my goodness, that's tight. But it was a correct decision by the linesman, or assistant referee, I should say.
Montgomery. Henry. Here's Goff. Laudrup. Ferguson. Jonas Turn. McPherson. There's Ferguson again. Rosenthal. Negri, he's got the turn in well, and he had Marshall scrabbling across to get there, and it was deflected en route.
He only needs a half chance, doesn't he? It looks as if there was nothing on there. First time Rosenthal's touched the ball for about 5 minutes, Rob. Managed to squeeze the ball. You see here, good control there, squeezes the ball through to Negri. Half chance turn, a little deflection. I think Gordon Marshall would have got there, but it would have went in.
Ferguson. Johansson. Laudrup. Carini and Goff. And more all in there queuing. And they've run the corner. And Jonas Turn goes across to take it. Richard Goff. Always a big threat. And Goff had made his move, but it's cleared by Henry. And looking for more here. It's gone harmlessly out for the goal kick. 4 minutes to go, and there will be plenty of stoppage time.
That's very true, Rob. There will. There's been a lot of changes. Got to say in that corner there, Walter Smith will be absolutely livid with Jonas Turn. You get your big guys in, you have a bit of pressure on your opposition, and it's a bad corner, and you don't clear the first defender, and that's really not what you want.
And another substitution with Ali Mitchell now coming on to take the place of John Henry, who's worked tirelessly in that midfield area.
They haven't done well, worked very, very hard in midfield, Kilmarnock, not to give any room at all. And the man they're bringing on right now, he can run for 120 minutes easy. And okay, he's only got 5 or so minutes, maybe possibly more, to show what he can do. But
well, Ali Mitchell, who's come on, did score in the match against Rangers at Ibrox to level the score at 1-1, but we'll remember as well as anyone that they were sunken in the last 5 minutes by 3 goals that they felt gave the score a very unfair look. Moore. Here's Vidmar. Turn. Perini. Moore. Goff. Negri. Here's Ferguson. Good play from Ferguson, looking for Negri at the far post. He's always looking to sneak into those areas to poach the goal.
Good run here from Barry Ferguson there. Checks in, takes it away, crosses the back foot, just a little bit too much in it though.
Well, is this Kilmarnock defence going to hold out? And the other question for you, Alan, is who's going to be your man of the match?
Yeah, well, it's pretty tight really, but you've got to say, I'm going to go with Raymond Montgomery. You know, he hasn't been playing in the team, he showed a real captain's role tonight in managing to snub out basically Rosenthal and Negri. I think they haven't had any snip at all, and him and McGowan have played really well, but I've got to give it to Raymond Montgomery as my man of the match tonight. He's been superb.
And it's Goff who's played the piercing ball through to Laudrup, and Marshall came and did enough, but can't afford to take any chances.
They did better there, Gordon Marshall. They had to come, of course. Lucky for him, he was still in the box when he touched it with his hands and did the sensible thing and just played it out. Can't score from out there.
Approaching stoppage time, and a reminder that we do expect there to be plenty of that. It's Ferguson, blocked by Neville. Perini. Confirmation of the man of the match, Ray Montgomery.
Yeah, he's done really well tonight. He's only just come back in, hasn't he, because Jim Laughlin's out with the flu. But he definitely has played a major role in that defence for Kilmarnock.
Holt. Neville. Negri here looking to get in. Well, the Rangers front line still bustling away, trying to produce the goal that will give them a more comfortable look at the top of the table, but with Celtic and Hearts having home games tomorrow, 1 point clear at the top won't look too comfortable at all, and frustration here for Laudrup as the throw-in verdict goes against him.
Yeah, and the clock on the big scoreboard, Rob, it says 90 minutes, but I think you're guaranteed it's going to go 93, 94, 95 with the amount of stoppages we had. So this game is most definitely not over yet. I'm sure Bobby Orr in picture there is going to add a few minutes on, and as I say, the game's not finished, although Kilmarnock have defended well, but Rangers over the last 5 or 6 minutes have certainly had possibly a little bit more of the possession and pushing them back.
Perini with a back pass. Turn. Vidmar. Given away, and Varai here tried to slip Roberts through, but he's flagged offside.
It's a little impetuous there. It's not a bad ball from Varai, it's just that Mark Roberts had definitely strayed offside there. You can just see, actually, good play by, I think that's Goff there, who steps out just to make sure he's offside.
Rosenthal. Moore. Goff is staying exclusively in the attack now. Rangers applying all their resources into attack, and whenever that policy is employed, there are always risks, although they aren't apparent for a moment as the ball has been given away to Rosenthal, and he's been bundled over by McPherson.
That was anyhow there. Rosenthal had got clear. He's actually bundled into, yeah, you're right, by McPherson there, just to make sure he didn't get away, but by giving free kicks away, certainly in this area, defending's not finished for Kilmarnock.
Turn with a free kick, and headed away to Gus McPherson. Anywhere will do at the moment for Kilmarnock. They'll be quite happy to hold on for a point here. This part of a sequence of 3 games in 4 against the top 3. They've played Celtic, here they are, attempting to hold Rangers after a match with Aberdeen. They've got Hearts to come. They're holding the leaders at the moment. And that clearance by Montgomery, who's played a full part in that. But can they keep it going to the end? Goff. Jonas Turn, 1 goal to his credit already. Here's Johansson. 4 in the box here for Rangers if he can get it across. Carini and Goff were both there, and Holt squeezed in between them. Laudrup here trying to provide. It came off him last. It's gone for the goal kick, and 1 or 2 Rangers players, Goff and Rosenthal, notably holding their heads, thinking that might have been their last chance.
Well, it's not been his night tonight, hasn't it? We've expected a lot from him, as you do from Brian Laudrup, because he has set good standards. It just hasn't gone from tonight. He's got the cross in, good block by Gus McPherson, but it came back off of Gus, back onto Brian, and taken out for a by kick. Good result for Kilmarnock, that.
But not a very happy birthday for Walter Smith. His side held to a 1-1 draw here at Rugby Park. Paul Wright scoring the first goal after a dreadful mix-up in the Rangers' defence. Jonas Turn rescuing something from a terrible evening, really, for Rangers. It started badly when Marshall's clearance completely caught out Björklund. Unaware of Gorham's position, he gave Wright an easy chance, and he took it. But Rangers did battle their way back into the game when Marshall's error left the goal unattended. As Baker pulled out, Turn executed this magnificently, but it was all overshadowed by a nasty injury to Gordon Jury, knocked out and taken away. A very sad sight that overshadowed proceedings. The final score is Kilmarnock 1, Rangers 1.
And thanks to Rob Hawthorne and Alan McAnally. It's back to the race for honours in England tomorrow night. Wednesday, 7:30, Sky Sports 2, Barnsley against Manchester United in the FA Cup 5th round replay. And on Friday at 7, Sky Sports 3, the Schoolboy International, Wales against Northern Ireland. And it just keeps coming. On to Saturday, our football special in the Premiership. Saturday morning, 10:30, Chelsea against Manchester United, ahead of United's European commitments. And 7 in the evening from Spain, Compostela against Real Betis. Both those games, Sky Sports 1. On to Sunday, Sky Sports 3, midday. The big game, perhaps the game of the season in the Nationwide League Division 1. Nottingham Forest against Middlesbrough. And on Super Sunday, Sky Sports 1 at 3. Tottenham Hotspur against Bolton Wanderers in the FA Carling Premiership. The relegation battle and a massive game for Spurs. 6:30, Sky Sports 1 in the evening, Sunday, Oviedo against Valencia. And on to Monday night, Sky Sports 1, back to the Premiership, the London Derby, West Ham United against Arsenal. A great week of football ahead, 8 live games in 6 days. Next, reactions from Rugby Park and the thoughts of Charlie Nicholas and Trevor Stephen.